Hello students, today in this video we are going to discuss the poetry written by Thomas Carlyle. Hero as a poet on hero worship and the heroic in history. So Thomas Carlyle was a prominent writer of Victorian age. His early work consisted of translation, essays and autobiography. His period was from 1795 to 1881. His other historical works include the history of Frederick II of Prussia, called the Frederick of the Great Past and Present, and Oliver Cromwell Letters and Speeches. He holds fairly fame by dint of satires. On heroes, hero worship, and the heroic in history, he also is also his famous work, which consists of 5 lectures. First is a hero as divinity. Second is the hero as prophet. Third is the hero as poet. Fourth is a hero as man of letters. Fifth is a hero as a king. There is something underlined here, so kindly ignore that. Carlyle in the third lecture depicts of what sort of a poet can be a hero. According to him, having all the qualities of heroic warrior can delineate a picture of a heroic warrior in his writings. Like prophets, poets are the people who can see and understand divine mystery. They bring to light an open secret, which is seen almost by none. They can penetrate the divine era of the world, that which lies the bottom of appearance, and they are the man of the eternal world. He gives 2 names of poet, which are Dante and Shakespeare. He called them the saints of poetry. Carlyle says that the people are worshipping Dante. He was an intelligent and hardworking person. Misery, suffering, and humiliation was a great part of his life. He could not marry a woman to whom he loved. He was banished from Florence, but all his suffering bestowed him with profound and ponderous intellect. Dante, in his epic, describes all the circumstances of the dark and the medieval age. Carlyle gives different names to his divine comedy, like divine song, the transcendental mystic song, the voice of silent century, and the Christian epic, etc. In divine comedy, we can experience the vivid expression of Dante's realm and imagination. The first part of Inferno of Divine Comedy explains the condition of hell, and the second part, Purgatorio, describes the experience of soul and how they purified. Third part is Paradiso of Kingdom of Beauty and Delightness. Here the poet meets his beloved. Dante, with all his sincerity, circumspection, delineates his time. So according to Carlyle, the soul of Divine Comedy is eternal and will continue to transfer its readers in the world of joy. So, according to Carlyle, Shakespeare has the same importance of the modern age as Homer has for Greece and Dante has for Middle Ages. He praises Shakespeare for his penetrating eye, joyous strength, great soul, and true and clear tune. He calls him the tranquil, unfathomable sea and the greatest intellect. He says his tragedies can make us acquainted with his sufferings. He says that his use of proverbs can only be compared with Dante's. By concluding this, he says Shakespeare's intelligence is unconscious intellect and Shakespeare is more than his awareness. So Thomas Carlyle, by dint of his prophetic zeal, is trying to make the world free from evil. He is trying to convince us of the purity of heart and soul. In describing the hero as a poet, he gives us an ideal figure from the world of poetry. He considers Dante a hero because his poetry still encompasses universal lessons. Shakespeare to him is an eternal poet. He believes that Shakespeare gained his art from the depth of nature. So first of all, this work consists of 6 lectures that were held in 1840 and later published in the London in 1841. Lectures, as he says, that have shaped themselves in the world history. The central point of lectures is represented by the concept of great man, at which it becomes rather synonymous with his heroic definition. Carlyle emphasizes the nature of the hero rather than his accomplishment. The lecture also contains a lot of biographical information in regards to the historical figures represented, even though some facts might be presented from the subjective point of view. And somehow odd, they also contain a romantic, anti-democratic, and anti-scientific view, as we learned from the course. This attitude announced a series of extreme ideologies of the 20th century like fascism and communism. The type of hero that Carlyle tries to present is probably not the only embodiment of what we understand of a hero today. William Henry Hudson, in an introduction to Carlyle work published in 1834, gives a better understanding of the reason of individual men were needed for progress. He says the masses of the people can never be safely trusted to solve for themselves the intricate problem of their own welfare. They needed to be guided, disciplined, and time even driven by those great leaders of man who see more deeply than they see into the reality of things and know much better than they can ever know what is good for them. First lecture presents us in embodiment of hero as God, divinity, Odin, the Almighty God, and the Norse mythology. He is an author mentions the hero, immeasurable admiration for whom and transcending the known bounds become adoration. Carlyle makes a strong point about how Odin come to consider to God. He talks about the companion communion of man with the powers of the universe and also present him as the light that came upon the dark vortex of the Norse mind. He affirms that this is the primary need of Norse religion. This response of the people hearts Odin message. Also some of the characteristics of a so-called hero he's supposed to be valiant and fearless. In the next, we have Muhammad, the hero prophet. In another introduction, David Sorensen describing his acknowledging the legitimacy of Islam is rather controversial for Carlyle time. Muhammad, he himself confesses that he doesn't believe Muhammad to be the truest of all prophets, but he doesn't question the truth of his heart. Muhammad is perceived in Carlyle's eyes as a light born into darkness, and he mentions that Arabia first became first alive by his means. What he also admired about Muhammad is his wildness, his nature of presenting himself as something that he just is. There is no pride in him, but he also doesn't go much about humility. The historical construct of Muhammad's journey is also mentioned and reinforced. Coming up as the hero as a poet, Carlyle up upon the greatest figures of literature, Dante, William, and Shakespeare. He considered his heroic figure to be presented throughout all ages. He also makes some bold statement in regard to these two, calling them out on their geniality and on their intellectual saints of poetry. There were also and will never be anyone like them. Dante's softness, tenderness combined with sharp contradiction, isolation, hopeless, pain and a battle against the work, and Shakespeare is the chief of all poets and greatest intellect. His dramas are product as deep and nature itself. The fifth lecture focuses upon the hero and of man as the letters, and I recommend it for you to read the lectures in order to understand the certain extent Carly perspective on these men, because there are a lot of information in all three of them. So, from this lecture, we can also, Carly use a lot of analogies to describe these men, as he called them Fitch's word, people unfolding to like God like to men. He goes on mention, and there were heroic bringers of the light, but heroic seekers of it. So, from this lecture, we gain a better image of anti-democratic attitude, where we talking about, as he repeatedly mentioned, the world has to obey him who thinks and sees in the world. He also presents sincerity and ultimate as the dominant quality of a great man should possess. So I call them three genuine men, more or less faithfully, most part unconsciously struggling to be genuine and plant themselves on the everlasting truth of things. So this is the conclusion that sincerity has the intrinsic characteristic of every man. I should say sincerity, a deep, great, genuine sincerity is the first characteristics. Falsehood is the greatest enemy of the world. And individualism above the unorganized masses, as we mentioned, people need someone to guide them, someone who knows what is best for them, since anything else would lead purely anarchy. And another important aspect Carly strongly focuses on is represented by hero worship. Hero worship, he say, represents act of accepting that there is exists something divine in the presence of your brother, and the act of adoration of bending before men that should extend from divinity to the lowest region of life. So I hope you like my notes, which I have shared to you on the Thomas Carlyle, and I hope you understand the point what he has tried to mention in his essay and in his work. So I hope you like the video and like the conclusion and overall the summary of the text. And please like and share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.